Okay, lots to catch you up on right now. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in Saudi Arabia having dinner with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as the United States tries to get answers about the disappearance of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Pompeo met with the prince and his father, Saudi King Salman, in Riyadh earlier, as NBC News learned from three sources that Saudi leaders were discussing a plan to admit that Khashoggi was killed at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. One source said the kingdom will claim, quote, rogue operatives killed Khashoggi during an interrogation that went wrong. Turkish investigators left the consulate early this morning after spending about 9 hours searching the building and taking samples and evidence. It was the first time police were let in since Khashoggi was last seen there exactly 2 weeks ago. And the search came hours after this cleaning crew was seen going into the building. A cleaning crew went into the building before Turkish authorities did. NBC News chief global correspondent Bill Neely joins me now from Istanbul. Bill, first of all, let's get up to speed on what we believe is going on in Saudi Arabia. Are they preparing to come forward with some sort of explanation, as has been reported since late yesterday?
Well, yes. I mean, the first hint of that, of course, was from Donald Trump talking about the possibility of, rogue actors in this appalling drama. It looks like the Saudis are, having for 2 weeks basically said they didn't know anything about it, at least plausible deniability for both the king and for Mohammed bin Salman, now ratcheting back, realizing that that story simply didn't fly, realizing that the world did not believe them, investors fleeing like crazy from the investment conference due in Saudi Arabia next week, and they realized that they had to come up with a different explanation. Partly, of course, because the Turks have evidence. Exactly what evidence, we still don't know, but we think it's possibly videotape, certainly audio, and now with police teams going into the Saudi consulate, actual physical evidence. So the Saudis, are trying now to have a plausible explanation. And I suppose the criticism from some in Congress is that Mike Pompeo may be part of that squaring of the circle, and that really he shouldn't be doing that. The U.S. shouldn't be involved in this at all.
But if you take that view, then maybe Donald Trump shouldn't have been floating the trial balloon that it was a bunch of rogues gone wrong. More importantly, yesterday when you and I talked at this hour, you floated an idea there that Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the United States may want this headache to go away. They might be looking for the way in which they can move past this in a way that doesn't challenge the amount of oil that America gets from Saudi Arabia, the amount of money American companies make there, the amount of weaponry that Saudi Arabia buys from the United States. That's maybe a diplomatic effort to try and sweep this potential murder of Jamal Khashoggi under the rug.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the Khashoggi family came out with a statement today saying that they were traumatized and calling for an independent international investigation. Well, sadly for them, I think that's simply not going to happen. This is now in the realm of great power politics, and a diplomatic deal is being stitched up. I think the only possible loser in all of this is the Saudi crown prince. Mohammed bin Salman, who Mike Pompeo met today for half an hour, indeed he's sitting down to dinner with him at this very moment, was the world's most powerful 30-something. He was the real decision maker in Saudi Arabia, a man who was responsible for Saudi Arabia's great reform effort, at least women are driving now, but responsible for all sorts of other things like the war in Yemen, like the arrest of many Saudi royals and dignitaries in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and the extortion of money from them, arresting the Lebanese Prime Minister, having him resign live on TV, a host of extraordinary things. But now, much, much worse than that, he is complicit in murder, and people are running from him very quickly indeed. Did you hear Republican Senator Lindsey Graham talking today in very distasteful terms about Mohammed bin Salman? So if anyone is the loser in this, I think it's him. And the Saudis are desperately trying to claw back really the reputation of the kingdom here and come up with some deal that allows them plausible deniability. And of course, the Turks are absolutely piling on the pressure here. They're quite happy to see their regional rivals squirm.
And that may have contributed to the release of Pastor Andrew Brunson. While the Turks can gain points in the eyes of the United States or the West, they were taking an opportunity to do so. Bill, you have covered the world, and you know that this administration in particular, and I might generalize and say American and Western governments in general have often turned a blind eye to countries that are business and strategic and diplomatic and military partners when those countries engage in human rights abuses or press freedoms abuses. This is just not something we tend to do. We tend to say, as the president did, we've got remarkable business relationships with Saudi Arabia. They are, in fact, the largest buyer of American arms. The president, in an interview in 60 Minutes, named Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin as companies that employ Americans that would suffer if we were to impose sanctions or stop selling things to the Saudis. This is the way of the world, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, every country likes to think it has, in inverted commas, an ethical foreign policy. And sometimes that does include human rights. But President Trump has not been a great champion of human rights. And I think here it's realpolitik that's going to win out. President Trump made clear right from the beginning that he wasn't willing to sacrifice that huge Saudi arms deal. I think he quoted the figure of 500,000 American jobs.
Yep.
I'm not sure that relates directly to the Saudi arms deal. But yes, he named all those companies. And of course, the Saudis were not slow in saying, look, if you mess with us, we will mess with the global economy. And on the Saudi state media, they were talking about the possibility of oil price per barrel going up to $200 a barrel. It's now around or just over $80 a barrel. So look, you know, the Saudis are flexing their economic muscle. The Turks were asking the Europeans, you know, what on earth do we do about this? What's your advice? So all the great powers are cooking up some kind of explanation that will be convenient to everyone. And as I say, yes, one loser may be Mohammed bin Salman, but really the real loser is the family and the person of Jamal Khashoggi. And of course, the great question is, where's his body? How on earth did he die? And why did this happen in the first place, Alan?
All right, Bill, it's a complicated story. We appreciate your breaking it down and your analysis. Bill Neely for us in Istanbul. He's our chief global correspondent. Joining me now is Robin Wright, journalist and senior fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Center. She's also known Jamal Khashoggi for years. Robin, good to see you again. Marco Rubio, one of the U.S. senators, Republican senators, who do not seem to be satisfied with this pending Saudi explanation for Khashoggi's death, has asked a number of basic questions. Let's say the Saudis come out and say this was a rogue thing or an interrogation or a rendition gotten wrong. Where's the body? Why no phone call to the family? Why 2 weeks of lies about this? And why is the Secretary of State of the United States sitting with Mohammed bin Salman in what some observers seem to think might be an effort to craft a plausible response that will allow Saudi Arabia to get past this? I mean, any of these questions, take whichever one you want.
Well, the repercussions are clearly deepening in Washington. There has been widespread consensus among Republicans who are allies of the president, questioning not just the leadership of the kingdom, but the U.S. relationship. And the very strong language from Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, all indicates that for the foreseeable future, Saudi Arabia is going to have a very hard time bettering relations or repairing relations with the United States.
Saudi Arabia is not in any way a democracy. If they go with this answer that it was an interrogation gone wrong, a rendition gone wrong, rogue killers who may not have even been sent by Saudi Arabia, who may have killed somebody inside the Saudi embassy in Istanbul, the message that may send is that Mohammed bin Salman is not as in control of things as he would have the world believe. So this is a bit of a double-edged sword for Saudi Arabia. Either Mohammed bin Salman, the putative head of Saudi Arabia, ordered Jamal Khashoggi's killing, or he didn't. Both are problems for him.
Yes, and Mohammed bin Salman is clearly the singular power in the kingdom. He has consolidated all 5 major wings of government, including the military establishment, the economic council, and the political royal court. There is almost no avenue to challenge his rule. And many of the people among the 15 who reportedly went to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul are employees of branches of government that he controls. It's very hard to see how he didn't know or didn't have some role in this very tragic affair. And the way it is played out, the way it has been bumbled, with the repeated lies, the trying to find some out for the kingdom, recalling diplomats, it's really quite staggering. I can't think of anything comparable anyplace else in the world recently.
A number of members of Congress, senators, are doubting the Saudi story and have said that if this story is the one that comes out, they still don't actually believe it. Lindsey Graham said this morning he's going to, quote, sanction the hell out of Saudi Arabia if this is the case. Is that even likely to happen?
Well, there are arms sales that are at stake, and the idea of sanctioning Saudi Arabia is a little bit difficult to see how it plays out. But there are a lot of questions about the future of the Saudi economic plan. Mohammed bin Salman's future kind of rests on his Vision 2030, which is a plan to diversify an oil-reliant economy. And he needs hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars in foreign investment to make that work. And of course, he continues to plan to hold a conference this month to try to draw in potential investors, and many of them are dropping out. So the stakes really have deepened. It's not just the affair of trying to figure out an out for explaining the disappearance and reported dismemberment of Jamal, but also the future of this core relationship and the future of the kingdom as it tries to be something more than just an oil-rich desert monarchy.
Let me ask you what you think is going on with Mike Pompeo and Mohammed bin Salman. Is it a stern conversation that says you guys need to sort this out, or are they crafting a response?
We have to hope that Pompeo is reading the Riot Act and saying this is unacceptable behavior. This is someone who was a resident of the United States, has American children, and close ties with the United States. You can't treat anyone that way in your kingdom or outside the kingdom. But the optics of the meeting today were very striking, that the secretary was sitting next to the crown prince, and they appeared to be laughing, enjoying each other's company. And the crown prince deliberately, while cameras were rolling, pointed out that the two countries have been allies in the past, the present, and will be in the future. And Pompeo quite enthusiastically said, absolutely. And that's not the kind of message that that the administration should be sending to the kingdom.
That might be an interesting long-term message. It's not the short-term message, at least while there's questions about a man who may have been murdered in the Saudi embassy. Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.